and start with the MJC stuff. Okay. Now, when you register at MJC, it's required that you have a ed plan. And while I'm doing this, what I'm going to do is, let's see, how do I do it? I'll just, there's always 10 ways to take notes. I think what I'll do is I'll just use a DOS window and use GVim. I just installed it and call it notes for 2022, 03, 07, 210.txt. And then I'm just going to throw some scribbles in here to help me remember what I'm doing. I'll minimize this one. So we're going to talk about printers, the paperless office, and the AS degree versus the AST degree. Okay. On that note, while I'm sketching out the notes and you're watching my face, what I want to do is talk about the AST versus AF. Now, when you log in and you become a student here at MJC, you get your appointment with the counselor, and the counselor tells you what classes you need to take, and you dutifully follow their instructions. I will tell you, in all honesty, you need to do your own homework. Counseling led me astray when I was in JC, and it happens to my students all the time. I actually had a counselor tell one of my students, you can't do much with an AS degree in computer science. And I looked at the student, who's obviously very promising, he's off making buku bucks now. I said, now consider the source. The counselor has probably never cut a line of code in his life and doesn't know anything about computer science. So when it comes to questions like that, always ask the subject matter experts, whether or not that's in school or in industry. Don't ask your manager how to do somebody else's job. Go ask somebody who does that job how to do that job. Okay, go straight to the horse's mouth, as they say. Okay, now here's what I will tell you about AS degree versus AST. The associated degree for transfer is required for the UCs. Okay, and the CSUs will take the UC stuff and okay, and now I can transfer. What does this mean? You've got to take your chemistry, your physics, your biology. And if you transfer to UC Merced, they do not take one of our programming classes, which means you have to take them all over again, which is nuts as far as, if you ask me. So if your goal is truly a 4-year degree and a job, my recommendation is get the AS degree that is, quote, non-transferable. And let me explain those buzzwords. AST for transfer. And the what we call the terminal degree, or the degree that you get and it's done, is the MJC AS degree in computer science. And even though it says it's non-transferable, that is what we would call a buzzword overload. That is not true. Okay, when you transfer, you do not need a degree to transfer to your 4-year school of choice. Okay, let me get clear one more time. You do not need an AA degree in order to transfer. The rule is all you need is 9 units and a successful pattern of attendance, i.e. completion of the courses. So if you know you want to go to UC Santa Cruz, take 3 or 4 classes here and transfer as soon as you can. Okay. Now, the advantage of what you guys are living in is that you have the ability to enroll in a 4-year college and a JC at the same time to complete your degree patterns. That, I think, is awesome. Now, in the world of computer science, we follow the pattern that's set out by ACM. And the ACM has the Associating Computing Machinery. This is your $19 a year thing that you should be a member of because you get so much free stuff that's curated. So you don't have to waste hours and hours of time to find a good website on what are the new features in C++, ISO standards 2020, and what's coming up in the ISO standard for C++ in 2023, the new standard there. Well, looking for that stuff online can take you down a rabbit hole. But if you go to the ACM and you go to O'Reilly or Skillsoft, you can find exactly what you're looking for without wasting a lot of time looking for what you think you might need, okay? Also, when you're saying, hey, I need to learn Kubernetes from ground zero, yeah, you can do that online, but you're gonna find yourself hitting a wall more often than not. So if you find something that's curated, i.e. it's designed for somebody right out of the gate to learn Kubernetes from ground zero, you'll find much better success inside the ACM stuff. It's called learning.acm.org, and you just log in, okay? All right, now, the ACM has a pattern of what we call the core 4, the core 5, and basically it's, you have to understand, I'll put it here on the screen, these classes is discrete structures. I'll just call it discrete structures. That's our class, we call it that, discrete structures. Other schools call it discrete math. It's a system of math where it deals with ones and zeros, okay? Logic, Boolean algebra, gates, all that good stuff. The stuff you build computers with. That's discrete structures. You can take that here and it transfers. Even though you get an AS degree that is non-transferable, that's a lie, because the classes that make up that degree do transfer. Make sense? The other one is data structures, and that's basically the third programming class we have here, data structures. And then the other one is computer organization, which is basically assembly language, okay? And there's a couple others in there, but these core 4 or core 5 classes, you know, programming to, sometimes you need calculus. Some courses like the CSU Monterey Bay, you only need Calc 1 and or stats for Calc 2. And I can honestly tell you, I never used calculus in industry, but I did use an awful lot of statistics. Knowing stats is helpful no matter what you do. Okay, it's kind of like knowing SQL. It doesn't matter what you do, it's going to be extremely helpful. Okay, all right. So when you get your AS degree in computer science that is not transferable, you walk out of here with a really good handle of computer science discipline because you have the base on which to build your 4-year degree. So you can go to Western Illinois or Western Governors, WGU.edu, which is a good school. And then the other one is CSU Monterey Bay. They both have completely online software engineering classes or online software programming, whatever, okay? If you major and transfer with the AST and go to a CSU, you are going to learn a tremendous amount of theory, which is fine, but you're going to try to get a job somewhere. And you will be tested on your programming chops. Yeah, you may need to know a lot of theory, but you're still going to be tested on your programming chops. So what do you end up doing? You get your 4-year degree in computer science, and you transfer to UC, and you've got your freshly minted CSU degree, or University of California degree, and you realize you still don't know how to code for day-to-day work because you know all the theory, but you don't know how to code a deadline. So what do? You go back to school and you pick up pure programming, or you find a programmer dojo and you hang out somewhere to sharpen your programming chops on things like, let's say you're a front-end developer, Vue.js or React, Angular. There's a bunch of them. All this is built on top of Node.js. Okay, all these things. Just another, JavaScript is just a squirrely bracket language. It's sometimes it can be problematic, but the tool chains have gotten much better. So doing day-to-day work in JavaScript is not as painful as it used to be. You can thank Microsoft. They've done a lot of good work with TypeScript and VS Code. So now you can actually develop on Azure with cloud-based VS Code using JavaScript and never have to worry about your PC being up to date. You can just use the browser and be done with it. That's where things are slowly evolving. Okay? But the reason I wanted to bring out this idea that, oh, why should I get a non-transferable degree? Well, it's because it's an AS degree and it's valid, it's accredited, and you're done. And if you want to build on it, you can. And that's exactly what I ended up doing when I got my AS degree in music. I came to JC, I transferred all my units from all the schools I'd been going to into JC, took 2 classes, 2, one English, one psych, and I got an AA degree in music. It was a non-transferable degree. But what that allowed me to do is, because I had an AA degree from an accredited institution, it allowed me to enroll in Western Illinois University Board of Governors trustee program, which was an early WGU type play. And I ended up with a 4-year degree in liberal study. General studies, a 4-year degree in general studies, which is more liberal than liberal studies. Basically, you could take your upper division units from any 4-year school, as long as it was accredited, and you transfer those units into WIU. And I took classes from the Berkeley extension. So you could say I'm a Berkeley alum, big deal, okay? I took classes from Stan State. I took classes from, I can't remember else, well, but I transferred all these upper division classes into my Western Illinois University, and I had a 4-year degree. What was it in? General studies. So when I had a resume, I had to update. They said, what's your degree in? General studies. And then what I did is, when the resumes came out and you had to write your resume to the job description, I would highlight which classes met the criteria in the job description. Okay. I had classes all over the map, parenting, real estate, database design and structures, and advanced networking, which was completely bogus compared to what we do today. And so I ended up on my 4-year degree. Now, why does this matter? I'm going to put it in the chat. This is what I found out in my life. Okay. The degree is the ticket out of poverty. My biggest pay raises happened between jobs. Okay. When I had my A degree, I worked at one company. And then I got my 4-year degree and I moved to another company. Because I moved to another company and had the 4-year degree, I got close to a 30% increase in pay. Now, you can look at that two ways. One, what a great pay raise, or two, I was being paid very little, which is probably more accurate. I was being underpaid for the type of work I was doing, but you know, I was starting out in the business. I didn't know any better. I didn't even know what. Now you guys can actually find this information out at salary.com and other types of places. So you can actually find out what acceptable salaries are. And the only thing I can tell you is every job description lies. So they're looking for the perfect candidate. So don't wait to try to figure out a job. Just apply and do the best you can by hitting the highlights of the job description. Okay. If you only hit 60% of the job description, that's okay. You might get the interview anyway. Okay. You don't have to have everything on the job description to get the job. Okay. So regarding the degree pattern and everything, you can also land a job with just some really good programming shop. You get your degree, you know, work on your degree while you're working. Now, that's a little hard with a family. I did it and I finished my first master's 2 weeks before my oldest daughter graduated from high school. The only hobby they saw me have was study. But I couldn't take 6 classes a semester. I took one class a semester. Took forever, but I finished. And on resumes, when I would apply for jobs, I got more, shall we say, distance, more bang for the buck when I said currently enrolled in a 4-year degree program or a master's degree program. Because I was working full time, and saying that you're currently enrolled in a school means you got some moxie to get some work done. Okay. It just shows that you study this stuff offline, which is kind of important in the world of computer science. It's really hard to keep up otherwise. Okay. So that's just kind of a quick overview. So do not trust the counselor. They don't mislead you on purpose. They mislead you out of ignorance. Okay. That's not their fault. They're not trained on every discipline on campus. Okay. So when you know what you want to do and you know you want a 4-year degree in XYZ, look at the school you're going to go to. Find out the classes that you can and can't transfer, and don't worry about getting the AS degree or the AA degree or the whatever degree you want from MJC. Get the units you need to transfer. Now, everybody on campus, especially administrators and counselors, are going to say, oh, you need the AA degree. Well, maybe, maybe not. Do your own homework. Read the catalog of the school you want to transfer to. Okay. Now, This is where things come in tricky. For example, let's assume you want to major in computer science and you want to go to Berkeley. This is what I would highly recommend. Very early on in your career here at MJC, look at the Berkeley catalog for computer science. Look at which classes transfer, which classes don't. And don't waste your time on classes that don't transfer. Okay? Because you really have to do your homework on that, because some of our classes on campus have a lot of unit value. For example, language is 5 units, calculus is 5 units, but at Columbia, the same class is 3 units. Why do you care? Well, your FAFSA only covers X number of units for fundraise for your money. So if you take too many units at the JC, you're not going to have the unit, you're not going to have any extra unit dollars, shall we say, on your FAFSA to take the expensive classes at the four-year school. Now, this is all stuff you're not going to find out unless you talk to people that are, you know, I didn't know all this stuff when I was your age and going to school. I learned this all the hard way. And I actually got the equivalent of an AA degree, but not one single class would transfer. That was really disheartening. I worked 2.5 years on that program and not one single shred transferred to anything because it was an unaccredited private institution. Kind of like happens to our students at ITT Tech, okay, or Modesto Institute Technology. Yeah, they learn some skills, but they don't have any units to transfer, so they can't get a 4-year degree, so they're stuck. And they end up coming back to JC, taking a bunch of classes over so they can get the degree, so they can move up the food chain into management, okay? Not a fun picture, okay? All right, I will stop there. Essence is do your own homework, okay? Read the catalog of the school you want to transfer to. All right, if you have questions, come on and see me, or Chris, or John, or Nadia. All of us kind of know this stuff. Some of us know more than others, and I would say Chris would probably be the subject matter expert on this stuff. I know enough. He knows more than I do. He's been around longer. So on that note, that's where I'm going to stop on this part. I do need to stop for a second and ask for questions regarding what you understand or don't understand now at this point in time. So I will open it up for questions.
My question is, do we have a midterm coming up soon or not?
In this class, no. I will be looking at your completion, because today or I think it's this week, I have to make sure that all my students are participating. And if there's students that are not participating, they get dropped, okay? And this is getting a little more serious in our world because of the way the funding is and the way I don't know what's going to happen as far as coming back on campus. There's a real push to open the campus back up and have everybody back on campus in the fall, but I don't know how that's going to look. Nobody really knows. But no, there is no midterm in this class. Okay.
Where would you say we ought to be in the test out sequence? And what's that deadline that you're talking about where someone's going to get dropped?
That's today, or this week, the end of this week. That's where if I see you not logging into Canvas, then I'm assuming you're not doing anything. Okay. That's the only record I've got is you logging into Canvas. that isn't much, but that's all I have to go on.
Is there any sort of warning that we would get if someone's targeted for getting dropped?
No.
Hmm.
So it's,
Where should we actually be though at this point?
I would say about halfway, give or take, knowing that the ending chapters where you're studying up for the certification exam is a little more intense. But there is a couple easy chapters in there, like the printers and some of that, and, adding users and that sort of thing. Those are not quite as difficult. Things like adding a module to the kernel is well scripted, well understood, and they do have a tendency to gloss over some of this stuff. But if you try to take notes on it and retain it long enough to help you pass a cert exam, that will help you immensely landing a job. Because yeah, you still need to modify the kernel every once in a while, but not very often. The better jobs are the ones where you do it all the time. Okay.
Do you think we could be a little bit more precise about where we ought to be in?
Well, if you take the pattern of 1 chapter per week, how many chapters are there? How many weeks are there? Then you've got a good figure on where you are. I would see we're in week 9 now. So I would say you need to be at least at week 9, chapter 9, maybe 10 or 11. If you know you want to work on the certification exam, you want to be at least at 11, 10 or 11, because the amount of memory recall you're going to need for prepping for the exam is significant. Okay.
So I'm currently at chapter 5. I put it on the back burner for a few weeks. If I finish, let's say 12, is there any risk of being dropped?
No.
If I finish it by, let's say, Wednesday night?
No, no. As long as I see you actively logging in on Canvas, like I don't know if they've gone over the last command on Linux yet, but the last command shows when people logged into the system. They basically use the equivalent of the last command in Canvas. And the only thing I can look at is the last time you logged into Canvas. Okay. So as long as you're logging into Canvas, you could log in right now and log off, and it would be notated that, hey, you logged in today. That's all I have to go on, and that's enough to keep you in the class.
Well, I mean, this is a bit separate and not for me because I have logged into Canvas, but you can just go straight to test out, like the test out website, and not touch Canvas at all and get your work done that way.
Shouldn't, because not all the grades get propagated correctly when you do that.
Okay.
Oh, I was wondering about that because I was looking at my Canvas and I didn't see every score had transferred over fully.
Yes, and there's a couple reasons for that, and that's an issue that Canvas knows about. They rolled out a beta program that said, let's do this automatic grading thing, and it's hosed everything. And they said, oh, we can't do that.
Maybe this is a bit more for office hours because it's a bit of a personal case, but I think I have an account in the class that doesn't have an activation code, and then I have another test out account that is activated, and that's what I'm working on. And I'm a little bit concerned that my grades aren't going through because of that.
Right. What you'll have to do is call the tech support people at Test Out and tell them the situation. And then what they will do is they will give me some instructions to follow to put you into the course. Okay. So that basically I will have to import your stuff into Canvas. Welcome to the world of database import and exports. This is the reality. And the way Test Out works with Canvas is the buzzword of today is there's what they call deep linking, which means they're not doing simple text transfers. They're actually, Test Out is writing to an API to make stuff work inside Canvas. And this is the way a lot of the publishers are doing it now. And every publisher approaches the API that's in Canvas slightly differently. So there's this navigation headache that is just across all the publishers. So when you log into Test Out, there's one way to navigate. Log into Pearson, Revell, there's another way to navigate. You log into, ZY Books, there's another way to navigate. It's just the issue of complexity being built on top of complexity with all the layers of software that's being put in place, quote, for ease of use. So there's really no easy answer other than you calling Test Out and say, hey, I'm worried that my grades are not being propagated into the section that I'm registered. How do I let my instructor connect? And then they'll tell me what to do, okay? Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry that you have to jump through those hoops, but believe me, sometimes pencil and paper do make things easier. Okay. Any more questions regarding AS degree, AST degree, finishing up here at JC, Test Out in general? Now remember, Test Out is still available to you after the semester. You have it for 18 months. So if you don't feel comfortable taking the Linux Pro Test Out exam, don't. Give yourself a few months to study, then take it, because you get one shot included in the cost of the class to pass the Linux Test Out Pro, which is functionally equivalent to CompTIA Linux Plus. Slightly harder. The reason they do that is if you pass the Linux Pro with a good 85%, you're gonna pass the CompTIA, okay? So my recommendation is if you've got the extra cash, take the Test Out Pro, pass it, and then turn right around before it gets rusty, take the CompTIA Linux Plus. Now you have 2 certifications that looks good on a resume, okay? So what if they're duplicate? Most employers won't know, but it shows you, hey, wow, you really know Linux. Yeah, that's right. I really know Linux. Okay. All right. On that note, I want to talk about printers and the pain and anguish that they bring to the table. Okay. So I'm going to go over to a screen share now. Now, what I have done is that I've done a few things in the world of Windows because one, it makes the demo a little more relatable to what I'm assuming most of you are on Windows. And what I've done is I've created a few printers. So what I'm going to do is walk through this process of creating a specialized printer that does something unique and special that I personally think needs to be in any sysadmin, network admin, DevOps, security guys hopper, okay? You should know this. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a printer. I'm going to do a very specialized printer, okay? So I'm going to say add a printer. And then it goes through and it says, what kind of printer do I want to add? It's not listed, okay? So what I want to do is add a local printer. Next. And notice this port. I want to print to file. This little technique gave me huge raises. It's also a fantastic way to troubleshoot things. For example, label printers on a shop floor where you're using a Zebra printer and they print specialized barcodes and it's not printing right. How do you know it's not printing right? Well, it doesn't look right. Well, how do I fix it? Well, you got to see what's actually being sent to the printer. And the only way to do that is to create a secondary queue with the same driver that prints to disk. So you can see if indeed what is being sent to the printer is what the printer is expecting. Think of this as a hack to debug at a very low level, okay? And I'm going to say next. And then I'm going to say, what kind of printer do I actually want to print to? So you notice there's HP, all these PCL6s, okay? Microsoft, all these here. I'm going to use this Microsoft version XPS, okay? I'm going to say next. And then at the end of the queue, I'm going to just put file. Okay. Do not share the printer. I don't want to share it. Okay. I hit print to test page. And what was the port I used? File. So I am printing to disk by way of the Microsoft XPS print driver. So I'm going to call it XPS file and just hit enter. And it puts the PRN at the end of it, okay? So I'll say finish. And you can see that I've created a couple others in here. And I'm going to go over each one of these and explain some of the headaches that come with printers, okay? So there's a bunch of things in here, okay? So there's this one, generic text, created that one. And then I did this one, it says file. And then PS stands for PostScript. Basically, your PDF files are compiled / wrapped PostScript file. PostScript is also open source as Ghost script, okay? None of this stuff is going to make any sense to you until you have need for it. And it's like those specialized tools when you're working on a car, like the universal socket thing. Your job stops until you get that special tool to continue on. This is in that category. Your job will come to a screeching halt and you're going, oh crap, we got to figure this out. We got this new printer. We don't have the driver. How do we get it to work right? And then how do you do that? Well, this is one technique, okay? All right, and here we have a print to PDF and so on and so forth, okay? So let's take a look at what these files look like. So they are in the document directory and they have the PRNs on. So I just installed Vim. So I'm going to use Vim and it comes over. Isn't that lovely? This is what an XPS file looks like on disk. Now you're going, oh yuck, what do I do with that? Well, in the world of Linux, we always have little cheater ways to do things. This colon means I need to run a command. The percent means over the whole file. The bang means run an external command called xxd, which means take it and convert it into hexadecimal. And we can now see the actual print stream that's on disk that gets sent to a printer, okay? There's a lot of magic that goes on in there, okay? So let's kind of step back a step and I will print something. I'll take this, where do I have it? Yeah, here we go. Let's do this. I'll do something familiar for everybody. What I'll do is I'll open Wordpad on Windows here. Okay. And click here. I'll bring it over into the share screen. Okay. This is Wordpad. Everybody's familiar with this. It's kind of the notepad that does RTF. In other words, rich text format. So you can actually add some pretty fonts to it. And what I want to do is type in a few sentences here. You know where I'm going with this. Okay, and let's copy it and paste it a few times. And let's see here. Let's have some fun with it. And let's save it as a rich text format. And I will call this lazy dog .rtf. Okay, I'm going to save this as .rtf. Okay. So I now have a file name out there, as you can see right there. It says lazy dog RTF. Now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to say file save as, and let's save it as a plain text format. Okay, same thing, lazy dog.txt save. Okay, yeah, I'll overwrite it. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to close this thing. You can see now I have some new files in my directory, lazy dog RTF and lazy dog TXT. So what I want to do is bring these up in a tool that I did not author them in. And in my case, I'm going to bring up Vim. So this is what the text file looks like in Vim. So I saved it as a TXT file. This is what it looks like. And here I saved it as an RTF. And this is what it looks like. Okay. So this is what it looks like when we do the save as. Okay. Now let's turn around and print these to our different printers that we have set up that go to disk. Okay. I taught this to one of my final project students, and he took it right back to work. And he said, what you taught me made me look like a genius. And I said, well, the stuff I'm teaching you, you happen to be working with some old equipment. So how are you going to know this unless somebody old and gray teaches it to you? And that was me. Okay. So when you have a Vim install, it saves it as a tilde. Okay. This is the saved file. These are actually backup files. So I want to go to my originals, the ones without the tildes. And I want to open lazy dog TXT with, we'll take the default. Opening is Notepad. Now let's open it with Wordpad. Let's use the same tool. So let's right click and open with Wordpad. Here it is. I'm going to say file, print. What printer do I want to use? Well, let's go find my printer. Oh, look there. Where's all my printers? There they are. Generic text print. We'll use that one. Notice this flag. Make a mental note of that flag. Okay. And I'm going to say print. And this is called lazy dog file txt. Okay. I'll close that one. And then I will open the RTF file. Whoops. Oh yeah, why not? We'll do this. It brought up Word. Let's do that. This is fun. Say file, print, and I'm going to print this one to my PostScript file. the one that I called this one right here, right? Yeah. So I'm going to print to PostScript, and I'm going to print it straight to disk. Now I want you to notice in the Word, where is the print to file thing? Yeah. As time goes on, you probably won't see it. You probably won't get an option for print to file. So you kind of have to cheat, create a driver that redirects the print stream to a file. So now I'm going to say print, and it's going to tell me which file to go to. This is lazy dog file PostScript. Okay. Close all this down. Now let's go take a look at it. Let's start with the easy one. Text print, open with Vim. Looky there. That looks like a normal print file, but what are those funny Control M's? Anybody know? Yep. What I thought. The world of Linux and the world of Mac have carriage return as the line terminator. In the world of Windows, you have carriage return and line feed as the line terminator. So when it created this file, it made it Unix and Mac friendly, which also happens to be printer friendly. So if you used a tool like Netcat or NC or SOCAT and just pushed this data stream onto your printer, it would look fine. Okay. So if I basically converted this to hex and sent it straight out to my printer, it would look fine. Okay. So that's what it looks like as TXT. It's pretty human readable. Okay. Now let's take a look at the PostScript one inside our world of Vim. Take a look at it. You're going, ugh, what is this? This is PostScript. It's still widely supported across many things. And you're going, my gosh, that's so much data for such a few lines. Yep, you're right. Because Word installs a bunch of stuff. They make, they add a lot of things that's not necessarily needed. But PostScript is a stack-based programming language. And you can actually read up on it and write code in PostScript that will create your image dynamically in the printer. You go, why would I want to do that? Well, in the early days, we used to have to load the fonts and the backgrounds ahead of time into the RAM of the printer. And then you would call that font sequence or the background with an escape code, so to speak, somewhere buried in PostScript to make your screen or make your printout look nice and pretty. One of the biggest things that Microsoft brought to the table was Wysiwyg. What you see is what you get. So for the most part, when you have the right printer installed and you have the right driver installed, what you see on your screen is pretty darn close to what you see on the printer. Okay. That was not always the case. It used to be you could have quite a disconnect from what you saw on the screen to what printed out. Okay. So notice this information here, this PostScript stuff. Okay. This information, each one of these, when I was playing with it earlier, I've saved in a different type of format. So let's go to, I'll print one more. Let's go to Let's take the lazy dog text, open it in Wordpad. Okay. And the one I haven't done is the XPS. Let's do that one. Okay. So let's choose some funny fonts here. Let's choose some crazy fonts. Let's just use this Comic Sans. We'll highlight and go to Comic Sans and go to 12 font or 20 font. Why not? Nice and big. And say File, Print. And what we'll be doing is let's send this one to the generic print only. Okay. I'll show you what's going on here. So this is going to go to two. Now let's not do that quite that. Let's just do this. And I'm going to call this lazy dog file. And this one is, I'm going to call it text with format. And I'll do the same thing again. File, print. And I will use I'll use one that's a little bit different. I'm going to use this one, print to PDF, but I'm going to click this button and hit apply and hit print. So now it's going in, and notice it's printing PDF, .pdf. It doesn't say PRN, it says PDF. Because when you print to file, by setting up a driver inside of the subsystem like you saw me do, it captures the print stream. When you put it as a print to file, it's the result of the print stream, okay? Lazy dog file, and I'm just going to put a -sign PDF in there. Okay. All right. I use print to PDF all the time. I'll say save. You want to save it as text only? No, what? Yes, why not? So it strips everything back out. I'll bring it back up again, and the Comic Sans won't be there. Okay. So let's take a look at my new print screens here. I'll bring them up in Vim. Here's the PDF. Isn't that just lovely? Yuck. All right. Now let's print the text. Remember the text was with fancy fonts. What happened to my fancy font? They got ripped out, didn't they? Let's bring this one up. I brought up the wrong one, sorry. Here we go. It sort of looks like what I had with the carriage of turns, but it's not the same size, but it's sort of got the formatting right. Okay. So this sort of stuff you're going, why do I need to know this stuff? Well, for the most part, you probably don't. Okay. But this is what I do when I set up a Linux box. Let me go here and I'll open this. Now, this is what you'll see in your desktop. There's basically three big major ways to print. Printing straight to disk using things like print strings like cat minus whatever to some file. The other one is the LPR LPD, and that's the older school way of doing things. But when you install cups, which is the common Unix printer system, which is designed and built by our good friends at Apple. So when you install cups on any Linux box and you download drivers, information about the drivers being used goes back to the various motherships like HP or IBM or whoever's printer you're using, so they can keep track of who's using what printer drivers and what printers. Okay. All this is stuff is going back to the mothership. Okay. Depending on who writes the software. So you can use, once you install cups, there's a series of commands. LP stat, it shows you what printers are installed, and then which printer is the default. And this is the default printer here. It says it's the local printer here. But let's see here. I don't see the one that I'm looking for. Oh, yep, there it is. See this? There is a printer that's installed, and I can say, let's do calendar 2022. See that script? I'm going to run it into a file. And then now what I'm going to do is print that file, LP-destination PDF, and I'm going to print that file. And notice it's printed now. And if I do an LR, you will, which is my alias for LR, it's, you know, sort by time, give me the most recent file that's been touched last. So I change directory to PDF. And what do I see? J__E tux. I use my PDF reader that's installed on this one, xfer. I think. Yeah. There's my PDF formatted file. You print a PDF. You have a file you can now email. Okay. This is one way to handle fax machines. Hey, send me the fax. And then you kind of mangle it a little bit. You print a PDF, and then you can kind of get move data back and forth via fax machine when you don't have a fax machine. Okay. But these little techniques about printers are not taught anywhere. And it's, you know, why doesn't the printer work? And you're going, well, we've got to go through this, we got to go through that. Yeah. The printing will give you heartburn no matter what system you're on. Admittedly, it is a lot better than it used to be. And it's a lot more trouble-free. But one of the things I want to show you is some of the things that does get exposed a little bit when you start learning more about cups and the printer queues in general, is that when you have a full-blown cups install, what am I getting here? This is why port 631 should always be closed on an internet-facing machine. Okay, because if you leave your 631 open on a Linux box, I'm not sure which port Apple binds to on cups, but I'm pretty sure it's 631. So you can actually add, subtract, use network printers. Let's use a network printer here. It tells you how to use network printers. And you can poke around on printers that are installed on this machine. And have I installed anything special? No. All I did was pop up a browser and I said, localhost 631. This is where cups run. So I can look at these different printers. Let's see, I think this is the one that's actually physically next to me. So you can actually look at things and so show completed jobs. You can see, oh, these are the jobs that were printed. Okay. And whether or not the user was added, you can change the log files on how this stuff is deleted, how big it was, how many pages it was, when it was. Reprint job. Oh, isn't that interesting? I can reprint payroll. Isn't that fun? Yeah, printers can be a huge security problem. Okay, so you want to tighten them down. Now, I do this on purpose because in the world of printers, there's IP addresses assigned to them. Okay? So when you have an IP address assigned to something, so let's go back and take a look at some of these guys. And let's see what I can find here. Notice this is the name of the machine. Cat 321 PTR 0. So I'm going to say copy, open a terminal, and say NS lookup. Now I can just walk over to the printer and look it up if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I'm just going to show it to you here. Said, okay, this is the IP address. There's the actual IP address of this machine. Now I'm going to run nmap against that machine. Now this might take a while. And since it's right next to me, is it going through a switch that's disabling it? I don't know. I might have to use the -P0 to get it to bring it. Oh, there it is. Look at all those ports that are open. Isn't that spiffy? Oh, look. I see port 9100. You know, I think I can do something clever here. And remember that file I had, J? I'm just going to move J to j.txt, so you kind of know that it's just a flat text file. Okay? So this is, give me a second here. I don't do this often enough to remember everything. I can't remember if I put it in here. No, I didn't. Let me pop over to my box. I've got a demo. I think it's on, oh, I know it's on this box. Let me do this one. Okay. I want you to notice something there. Yeah. Notice that's a PostScript file. I don't really care about PostScript file right now. So what I'm going to do is go back here to this screen. Oh, where's my j.txt? Okay, right. All right. What am I doing? I'm using a command called netcat. And I'm giving it the host name, which was cat 231 PTR01 and the port. You hear the printer? I just sent a print job by bypassing every single print spooler and print driver on the machine. And can I read it? No. Because what happens is, because I didn't do anything to process the file, it looks like this. The file actually looks like this. There are no carriage returns in it. So it's kind of all mangled. Okay. Can I fix that? Yes. I can use a simple command and add a carriage return to the thing and make it work just fine. Okay. So when students complain about having to pay for printing, I just bite my tongue, because depending on how it's set up, you can bypass all of that by going directly to the IP address and the port of the machine. Okay. Now the sophisticated print managers don't let you do this, but the ones I've been exposed to are not that smart. And they go, oh, well, this is easy. Oh, did you pay for your printing? Yeah, I did. All 2 copies of it. I paid for my printing. Okay. So this is, little tricks about the printing subsystem And now, okay, look at that. I've got my IP address and the host name. Now let's do something different here. Let's go to a new tab and type in the IP address 10.18.163.24. Oh, look at that. Advanced. Accept the risk and continue. Let's see what comes up. Wow. I get all the wonderful configurations inside the world of my printer. Yeah. This can save you a lot of headache. HP is really good about this. There's a tool called HP JetDirect Admin that lets you install it on your Windows box of choice with a giant Java stack, and it will pull your entire enterprise across subnets and give you a list of all your printers. So when somebody says, hey, it doesn't print, you can actually jack over to the box and look into it and say, hey, what's going on here? Oh, you're out of paper. Put paper in it. And it saves you a trip to go look at the printer. Okay. Or hey, you're out of toner or whatever. And you can, depending on how you set up your printer, you can actually change these things. Now, the printers around here are, for the most part, box stock generic. They don't do much as far as locking the box down. So I can actually drill around and poke around and see all sorts of interesting things about this. Okay. Now, one of the things, SNMP, they talk about that in the test out. This is called the Simple Networking Message Protocol. And then you have to do something called MIDS, the Management Information Block, that you can poll your computers from all over the planet, and you can create health reports on machine. How is my disk doing? What was my disk usage? What was my CPU usage? What was my RAM usage? All that stuff can be put into the message information block. Okay. So you can set up your security firewalls. Now, if I was to do printing for real on a secure system, the first thing I would look into is how to encrypt traffic. So everything to the printer gets encrypted with strong encryption from every target that prints. Okay. One of the weak spots is folks may secure the printer, but they create a shared printer queue, and the shared printer queue that prints to the printer is secure, but anybody that prints to the share is not secure. So you need to make it secure all the way back. Okay. All right. On that note, I think I've yammered long enough today. Is there any questions regarding some of this printer stuff? And I'm curious, how many knew about some of this stuff with the printers? Or is it one of these things that most of you just, it works, so you don't think about it? Okay, zero knowledge about this. This is really fun to play with at your house. Take your printer and do the same thing I just did. You know, print a file, take a look at it. The reason being is that you're starting to see some interesting development happen that takes the place of printing. Now, I don't think we'll ever see a paperless office, but if you look up SVG, the scalable vector graphics, what I like about SVG is that you can create a complete image of remarkable clarity with no printer. You use code to create your image. Think about that for a second. You're writing a game. Instead of spending all your time writing images and setting up images and fractals, and this, that, and the other thing, you can code the images that are going to be moving around in your game. I think that's a huge win for making things faster and more efficient. And there's other ways to do this. SVG is just one example. It's been around a while. Most people understand what SVG is. There's a tool called Inkscape that allows, it's open source, it allows you to edit SVG images. And you can also use SVG to animate. So you can actually create some animation loops using SVG to make a bouncing ball or whatever, okay? This is actually a lot of fun, okay? But you know, what happens, you know something new now that's not in your book, and you may never need it. Yay. But if you do, it's going to make you look like a genius. Okay. All right. So thank you for letting me know that you kind of knew some of it. And how to, yeah, the exploitation of it all is huge. You know, I used this little technique, one of my jobs, to find out if I had any future. And I realized that, you know what? I don't have a future here. If the boss is only making this much and I'm making this much, there's no way I'm going to get it. So I started planning my exit strategy, because private companies, they do not tell you what other people make. You can get yourself in trouble if you work for a company like Foster's or Gallo, where that kind of stuff is sacred. You don't dare share your salaries with other people, especially if you don't know them that well. You really have to build up trust first, because if word gets back to HR that you're sharing proprietary information, trust me, they will start building a case against you, and you will be set free to pursue other opportunities. Okay. So sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut. All right. So now that you are now all experts in the world of the wonderful world of craziness and printers, go have some fun. Go break your own printer and then fix it. Install the subsystem for the PDF, and that's simple. You just say apt install, well, SU, of course, and you say cups-PDF, and now you have a printer on your Linux box that prints to PDF. That's my default printer most of the time, and it prints to disk, and then I have everything I need. And then if you're clever, like I am, what you do is you take your PDF file, you create a symlink in your web pages. So when you print, it's already available on the web. So you have a bunch of PDF files that are on the web, so you can use it for reference. So I think that's kind of a really fast way to do web publishing. But that's not something I really show a lot, because not everybody can actually render PDFs very well. So it's something you can do, and it is an option. Okay. All right. I will get the notes put out, and when the video is finished rendering, I will let everybody see this kind of crazy thing we did. All right. Thank you all, and hope you have a great day.